Hello, hello, my crafty friends. Let me just have this open so we can monitor any comments or that. So this video is going to be a quick presentation on one of the ways that you can try to accurately stamp with your cling stamps. It's, just one way, not all the ways possible, but we'll start with this because it's a relatively easy one, especially when you have dies that match images. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and stamped a few of the, or die cut a few of these. I have to tell you, this detail here is really neat. Yeah, and this is from an upcoming one called the mixed label dies, which to me, you can always use labels. So I've cut that out, and I'm going to grab my Misti here. And it's a very, very useful tool. And what I've done is, this is the negative images. This is the die cuts out. And I've gone and matched up my images to where I would want them in the dies. Not going so well because my fingers are sticky. All right, let's try this again. If you push your die or your stamp in there, it'll catch in the space. Or if you have labels like this, it'll you just need to make sure that they're centered the way you want them to be. Like I've cut that one diagonally, so I need to make sure that one's in there diagonally. And how I can make sure this is going to work is I put this down. Hey, Miss Connie. Put this down like this. And I just need to make sure that this is going to work well with what I'm doing, which is actually nothing except for, at this particular point, I don't have a plan for this project, but, you can always use the images. I am going to ink up my stamps, and I'm just taking a second to season them really quick. I find that seasoning helps with both the red rubber and the acrylic, aka polymer, photo polymer. And I'm just gonna, I am not worried about a really good ink coverage here. What I'm worried about is seeing the locations of where they're going to stamp, making sure that it's accurate for this. And I'm using this reverse images, the piece of paper that I cut those dies from, and I put a piece of copy paper underneath, and I'm holding it in place with the magnetic piece. And I'm just going to stamp down like this and make sure that this is where I want it to be. And if I'm not happy, like I'm not completely happy with this, and not so much happy with that, it's a little cockeyed. This one could go up just a little bit, but you can see how this is going to work. So I'm going to pull off the ones I want to redo. And move them up. Your wonderful needs to be a little bit, so pretty. It was up like this, so I need to go like that. Thank you is fine. With sympathy needs to be a little bit over, and your kindness wasn't. The only one that I really had right was that. And this one is angled like that. Very possible that that happened when I set down the plate on top. Whoops. Now, you could, if you wanted to, change out. So that one's like that. That needs to come down a little more. Swap out the paper underneath if you wanted to. Hey, Dina. but I don't. Honestly, it helps me kind of see if I'm more or less off. I'm not so much happy with that. Now, the reason why getting this to where you want it to be is important with this Misti is that you're just going to set inside this piece here. You're just going to set it inside so that it can stamp. This looks straighter. You're able to stamp it multiple times. So this is, the Misti is like phenomenal, guys, for having, for stamping with multiple projects. Some of us do multiple things. Okay, I think I'm going to be a little bit happier with this. This one still seems a little crooked. I don't not know. So this is the one thing I will tell you that I don't miss, or that I miss about. Let me make sure that I'm seeing this right. Yeah. So is everybody ready? Well, it's not really a weekend. It's the middle of the week. So you can say that, normally this doesn't take me that long, but most of the time I'm not lining up words. I'm inking, you know, projects and flowers that actually fit a little bit better inside. So the label choice was not the best choice in the world to kind of mess with this, but it does kind of show the worst case scenario, which is still not working the way I want it to. The sympathy looks like we're going to be okay. Thank you. This is in better space. And your pretty is actually pretty decent. All right, so we're going to try this. I'm going to take my spaces here, or my images that I've already die cut out. I do die cut out 2 at a time. So I put these in to the negative image. So this is one way. So this is only doable when you have the dies, for the obvious reason here. And this is a great way to just kind of go through and make common sentiments that you could use on these and then store. I would use the cellophane bag inside of here, the ones I use for protecting my cards. Here's that. So I've got double that. This is one way. So let's see how I did. Has anybody done this before as far as using negative images to hold in the die cuts in place? It's obviously not as good as seeing clear, but you get crisper images out of here. So that worked out pretty good. Oops. I really like, you know, it just takes a little bit of playing around, but which is why I have the piece of paper underneath here so that I can get a measure of whether or not this is working or not working. Now, for this particular piece here, I want to put one of the other sentiments in here. So I'm going to change what I'm doing really quick, and I want for a great friend. So I'm going to get a double use out of this. Remember that this does go down a little bit. One of the things to note about the Close to My Heart versus the Stamping Up dies is that the Stampin' Up dies are a lot more closer to the image than you had a much bigger white area around a die cut, which made it easy to die cut a bunch of them and then go ahead and cut it out with the die. So that looks good. That does not necessarily work very well with the Stampin' Up dies. Sometimes it's just plain easier to stamp first and die cut next. And it doesn't matter if they're photopolymer or photopolymer or the cling. I want to do this really quick. So that is one way to do this. I'm going to show some other ways, but I got to go in and talk with my family really quick, because you can go ahead and put those back in, but I just kind of want to do some freehanding so you can see what it looks like freehand, and then see how to make them and then die cut them out. For me, you know, labels, flowers, things like that, Connie, this really helps a lot. And I tend to hang on to this, and I'll put it in the negative, I'll put it in. So that turned out really good, and you have some nice even lines around the banner. Then you can just put it in there and consistently stamp, 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 and you don't have to keep going back through. And like I said, I'll take this and just keep it in here. One last thing to lose. Haha. As you guys know, I lose stuff on a regular basis. So stay tuned for the next Stamping with Cling video. I want to do a bunch for the YouTube, so I'm just going to put them into here first, and then I will load them up on YouTube. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in a little bit.